The Earth science ship Perseverance drifted into the Centauri Prime spaceport like an ancient whale among dolphins. Its hull, scarred by decades of solar winds and micrometeorite impacts, stood in stark contrast to the gleaming vessels of the Galactic Alliance. Captain Sarah Chen watched from the bridge as another sleek alien ship executed a perfect automated docking sequence while her helmsman, Lieutenant Jack Torres, carefully guided their vessel using manual controls. "They're laughing at us again," Torres muttered, his weathered hands steady on the physical control yoke, a relic that drew snickers from modern pilots who preferred neural interfaces. "Let them laugh," Chen replied, adjusting her worn captain's jacket. "The Perseverance has earned every scar she carries." She ran her hand along the textured metal of her command chair, feeling the subtle vibrations of the ship's quantum drive, technology considered obsolete by current standards, but maintained with religious dedication by their engineering team. The reason for their visit to this hub of galactic civilization was the annual scientific summit, where representatives from every spacefaring race gathered to share technological advances. The Perseverance, despite its appearance, housed one of Earth's premier research teams, led by the brilliant but unconventional Dr. Maya Patel. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos from her communications station, "we're receiving our docking instructions." The harbor master sounds, concerned about our manual approach. Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Tell them we've been docking ships since before their species achieved spaceflight. We'll manage." The Perseverance's massive frame slowly aligned with its designated berth, its old maneuvering thrusters puffing clouds of ionized gas. The ship's hull groaned, not from stress, but from age, like an old sailor settling into a familiar port. Dr. Maya Patel emerged from her laboratory deep within the ship, her dark hair tied back in a messy bun, tablet computer in hand. "Captain, you should see these readings we're getting from the quantum field sensors. There's something." She trailed off as she reached the bridge, her eyes drawn to the magnificent view of Centauri Prime's spaceport through the main viewport. Dozens of ships from various species filled the massive structure. Most were research vessels like the Perseverance, but built within the last decade. Their hulls gleamed with photoreactive coating that absorbed and redirected solar radiation. The Perseverance's hull, by contrast, was a patchwork of repairs and modifications, each telling a story of discovery and survival. "Dr. Patel," Chen said, turning to face her chief scientist, "your readings will have to wait. We need to prepare for the welcome ceremony." She gestured to the tablet. "Though I suspect whatever you found will make quite an impression at the summit." Maya clutched her tablet closer, a mix of excitement and apprehension on her face. "They're going to call us primitive again, Captain. The Arthrani delegates made that quite clear at last year's summit." "Primitive?" Chen's eyes sparkled with amusement. "The Arthrani achieved faster-than-light travel barely a century ago. Humanity has been reaching for the stars since we first looked up at the night sky. We may not have the shiniest ships or the most advanced neural interfaces, but we have something they don't understand." "And what's that, Captain?" Torres asked, finally completing the docking sequence with a satisfying clunk of metal on metal. "History," Chen replied. "Experience. The knowledge that comes from failing 1,000 times and getting back up to try again. Our ships might be older, but they're tested. Proven." She stood from her chair, straightening her uniform. "The Perseverance isn't just a ship. She's a testament to human perseverance itself." The welcome ceremony was held in the spaceport's Grand Assembly Hall, a massive chamber with a transparent ceiling that offered a view of the binary stars of Alpha Centauri. Representatives from 27 spacefaring species filled the room, their diverse forms and colors creating a living tapestry of galactic civilization. The Perseverance's senior staff stood together, their worn uniforms and practical equipment standing out among the ornate garments and biotechnology augments of the other delegates. Dr. Patel fidgeted with her tablet, while Chen stood tall, her presence commanding respect despite their humble appearance. "High Commissioner Cyril of the Arthrani, Their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns approached the Earth delegation. Captain Chen, they said, their translator converting their harmonic speech into English. We were surprised to see the Perseverance still in service. Surely Earth could provide you with a more suitable vessel for such an important gathering. Chen met the alien's compound eye steadily. The Perseverance has been my home for 15 years, Commissioner. She's conducted more successful deep space research missions than any other ship in Earth's fleet. Ah yes. Hexoral's crystalline structure shifted, and what the humans had learned was their equivalent of a condescending smile. We have reviewed your mission records. Impressive achievements for such primitive technology. Before Chen could respond, Dr. Patel stepped forward, her tablet displaying complex quantum field equations. Speaking of achievements, Commissioner, we've made some fascinating discoveries regarding quantum field mechanics and their interaction with conventional spacetime. The Arthurani's attention shifted to the tablet, their crystalline form vibrating slightly, a sign of interest. These equations, they suggest a level of quantum field manipulation that should be impossible with your current technology. Impossible. Patel's eyes lit up with the fire of scientific passion. Or perhaps we're seeing something that more advanced technology might miss. Sometimes the simplest tools can reveal what the most complex instruments overlook. Other delegates had begun to gather around, drawn by the discussion. Chen watched with pride as her chief scientist held her ground against some of the galaxy's most renowned minds. The Perseverance might be old, its technology considered obsolete, but its crew's intelligence and determination were second to none. As the ceremony continued, Shen couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something momentous. Dr. Patel's discoveries, whatever they were, had clearly caught the attention of the galactic scientific community, even if that attention was currently tinged with skepticism and condescension. Later, back aboard the Perseverance, Chen found Patel in her lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex quantum field patterns. "Are you going to tell me what you've really found?" she asked, closing the door behind her. Patel looked up, her eyes bright with excitement and a touch of fear. "Captain, remember how everyone said our old quantum drive was inefficient, primitive? What if they're wrong? What if its very imperfections are showing us something about the nature of spacetime that the newer, more perfect drives can't see?" Chen leaned against a workbench, studying the displays. "Something that could change everything. Something that could rewrite our understanding of the universe," Patel confirmed. "But they'll never believe it coming from us. From this ship." "Then we'll have to show them," Chen said firmly. "The Perseverance may be old, Doctor, but she's never let us down. And neither has her crew." As if in response, the ship's quantum drive hummed beneath their feet, a sound that had become as familiar as their own heartbeats. Outside their viewport, the advanced ships of the Galactic Alliance gleamed in the binary starlight, their crews likely wondering how such an ancient vessel was still allowed to fly. They would learn soon enough that age and wisdom often went hand in hand, and that humanity's greatest strength lay not in the perfection of their technology, but in their ability to see possibility where others saw only limitations. The emergency alert shattered the prudent quiet of the scientific summit. Captain Chen was reviewing maintenance reports in her quarters when the Perseverance's aging computer system blared to life. Lieutenant Commander Santos' voice crackled through the intercom, tension evident even through the static. "Captain to the bridge, Priority 1. The Galactic Alliance is detecting massive quantum disturbances in the Proxima sector." Chen was already moving, muscle memory guiding her through the ship's familiar corridors. The Perseverance's bridge was a hive of activity when she arrived, holographic displays showing a growing anomaly that defied conventional physics. "Report," Chen commanded, taking her station. "The disturbance appeared 30 minutes ago," Santos explained, her fingers dancing across her console. "It's already consumed 2 uninhabited systems and is expanding exponentially. The Arthurani fleet is attempting to contain it, but..." She paused, frowning at her readings. "Nothing they're doing seems to be having any effect." Dr. Patel burst onto the bridge, her usual composed demeanor replaced by barely contained excitement. "Captain, these readings, they're exactly what my research predicted. The quantum field instabilities, the space-time distortions, it's all here." Before Chen could respond, the main view screen flickered to life, showing High Commissioner Tyrell's crystalline form. The usually pristine alien leader showed signs of stress, their crystalline structure clouded with concern. "Attention all vessels," Tyrell announced, their harmonic voice carrying an edge of urgency. "We are facing an unprecedented quantum-level event. All ships with containment capability are ordered to assist in stabilization efforts. All other vessels must evacuate immediately." The Commissioner's compound eyes fixed directly on the Perseverance. "Captain Chen, given your vessel's limitations, we strongly advise you to withdraw to a safe distance." Chen exchanged a glance with Dr. Patel, who was practically vibrating with intensity. "Commissioner, my chief scientist has been researching quantum field phenomena. We might be able to help." "Help?" The translator couldn't quite capture the mix of disbelief and condescension in Tyrell's tone. "Captain, we have the most advanced ships in the galaxy attempting to contain this anomaly. Your outdated vessel would only be in the way." The view screen split to show the containment efforts. Dozens of sleek Alliance vessels surrounded the anomaly, their advanced quantum drives generating containment fields that should have been able to stabilize any known space-time disturbance. But this was different. The anomaly seemed to absorb their efforts, growing stronger with each attempt to control it. "They're making it worse," Dr. Patel whispered, her eyes fixed on the data streaming across her tablet. "Their quantum drives are too perfect, too aligned. They're creating a resonance effect that's amplifying the disturbance." "Captain," Torres called from his station, 3 more Alliance ships just lost power attempting to contain the anomaly. Their quantum drives completely failed." Chen watched as the sophisticated vessels, now dark and lifeless, drifted away from the expanding disturbance. Their crews were safe, transported to safety by emergency systems, but the sight of those mighty ships rendered helpless sent a chill through the bridge. Dr. Patel approached Chen's chair, her voice low but intense. "Captain, remember what I told you about our quantum drive, about how its imperfections might be showing us something new. This is it. The anomaly isn't responding to their containment efforts because their technology is too perfect. It needs something different." "Different how?" Chen asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "The Perseverance's quantum drive isn't just old, it's unique. All those repairs, all those modifications over the years, they've created a quantum signature unlike anything else in the galaxy. It's chaotic, imperfect, but that might be exactly what we need." Another alert sounded. The anomaly had consumed another system, its expansion rate increasing. The Arthrani fleet's efforts were becoming desperate, their containment fields growing stronger, but only serving to accelerate the problem. "If we're wrong about this," Chen said quietly, "we'll be destroying a 50-year-old ship that served Earth proudly." "And if we're right," Patel countered, "we might save billions of lives and show the galaxy that sometimes the oldest tools are the best ones for the job." Chen stood, her decision made. "Lieutenant Torres, plot a course for the anomaly's perimeter. Dr. Patel, I want your team ready to implement whatever modifications we need. Lieutenant Commander Santos, inform the Alliance fleet of our intentions." "Captain," Santos said hesitantly, "the Arthrani are ordering us to stand down. They're saying our presence could destabilize their containment efforts." "Send them my compliments," Chen replied, a slight smile playing at her lips, "and inform them that Earth vessels do not require permission to render assistance in an emergency." The Perseverance's ancient engines rumbled to life, the sound familiar and reassuring to its crew. As they approached the anomaly, the ship's sensors began registering readings that made even Dr. Patel's eyes widen. "The quantum disturbance is unlike anything we've ever encountered," she reported, working frantically at her station. "It's as if space itself is unraveling. The Alliance ship's quantum drives are trying to force it back into normal patterns, but that's like trying to force a river to flow upstream. And what will our drive do differently? Chen asked, watching as the anomaly grew larger on their view screen. Instead of fighting against the disturbance, we're going to work with it. Our drive's imperfect quantum field might be able to show the anomaly how to stabilize itself naturally. Patil paused, looking up from her calculations. Think of it like teaching a child to walk. You don't force them to be perfect. You let them stumble until they find their balance. The bridge crew watched as their ancient vessel approached the edge of the quantum disturbance. Around them, the sophisticated ships of the Galactic Alliance continued their futile efforts at containment, their perfect technology proving inadequate against this new threat to the galaxy. All hands, Chen announced shipwide. This is the captain. We're about to attempt something that's never been done before. Whatever happens next, I want you to know that the Perseverance and her crew have never made me prouder. The anomaly loomed before them, a tear in the fabric of space-time that defied the most advanced technology in the galaxy. But perhaps, Chen thought, watching her crew work with quiet determination, it wasn't advanced technology that was needed here. Perhaps what was needed was a ship that, like humanity itself, had learned to embrace its imperfections and turn them into strengths. The Perseverance's engineering bay had become a maze of holographic equations and dismantled quantum drive components. Dr. Maya Patil stood in the center of the chaos, her dark hair now streaked with white chalk dust from the ancient blackboard she insisted on using for her most important calculations. The quantum field doesn't want to be perfect, she explained to Captain Chen, and the senior staff gathered around her. That's what the Alliance doesn't understand. They're trying to force order onto quantum chaos, but chaos is its natural state. Chief Engineer Marcus Wong ran his calloused hand over the exposed core of their quantum drive. So our old girl's imperfections are actually an advantage. More than that, Patil replied, excitement making her words tumble out faster. Every repair we've made, every patch, every jury-rigged solution, they've created a quantum fingerprint that's uniquely suited to this situation. The drive isn't fighting against quantum uncertainty, it's dancing with it. Through the viewport, they could see the anomaly continuing to grow. The Alliance fleet's containment efforts had become increasingly desperate, with more ships joining the failing operation every hour. 3 populated systems had already been evacuated, their inhabitants becoming refugees as the quantum disturbance consumed their homes. Walk me through it again, Chen commanded, her eyes fixed on the eerily beautiful destruction outside. What exactly are you proposing we do? Patil moved to her blackboard, adding new equations with quick, confident strokes. The Alliance ships are trying to create a perfect quantum barrier, but that's exactly the wrong approach. Quantum fields are inherently probabilistic. They exist in multiple states simultaneously. By trying to force them into a single, perfect state, they're actually making the instability worse. And our drive? Lieutenant Torres asked from where he stood by the door. Our drive is beautiful, Patil said, patting the worn metal housing. 50 years of modifications have given it a quantum signature that exists in multiple states naturally. It's like... She paused, searching for the right analogy. It's like the difference between trying to stop a wave with a wall versus riding it to shore. Chief Wong nodded slowly. The modifications I'll need to make, they're going to put incredible stress on the containment systems. We might not get a second chance if something goes wrong. We might not get a first chance, Santos interjected from her station. The Arthrani are demanding we withdraw. They're threatening to forcibly remove us from the area if we don't comply. Chen's expression hardened. They're welcome to try, but they'll find that removing us would require diverting resources from their containment efforts. Resources they can't spare right now. The ship shuddered as another wave of quantum distortions washed over them. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the holographic displays showing Dr. Patel's calculations wavered. We don't have much time, Patil said, her voice urgent. The anomaly is approaching the critical point. Once it passes that threshold, not even our method will work. Chen looked around at her crew. They were tired, stressed, but there was no fear in their eyes. The Perseverance had faced impossible odds before. It was practically their specialty. "How long do you need to make the modifications?" she asked Wang. The engineer exchanged a look with Patel. 3 hours, minimum. We'll have to reconfigure the entire quantum matrix while keeping the drive online. One mistake, and we could tear the ship apart. You have 2 hours, Chen replied. That's all the time we can give you. As the engineering team began their work, Chen returned to the bridge. The main view screen showed the Alliance fleet continuing their futile efforts, their ships arranged in a complex geometric pattern that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so ineffective. High Commissioner Curl's face appeared on a secondary screen. "Captain Chen, your continued presence is interfering with our containment operations. That relic you call a ship is contaminating our quantum field measurements." Interesting choice of words. "Commissioner," Chen replied calmly. Contamination implies something unwanted, but sometimes a little contamination is exactly what's needed. Ask your scientists about the role of impurities in crystalline structures. The Commissioner's crystalline form clouded with what might have been anger. "This is not the time for your human metaphors, Captain. We are facing the greatest quantum-level crisis in recorded history." "Exactly," Chen said. "And maybe that means it's time to try something that isn't recorded in your history, something a little less perfect." In engineering, Patel and Wang's team worked with desperate efficiency. The quantum drive's housing had been completely opened, exposing the complex machinery within. Decades of repairs and modifications were visible in the layered technology, some parts gleaming and new, others bearing the patina of age. "Look at this," Patel said to Wang, pointing to a particular junction where 3 different generations of quantum field generators met. "The quantum interference pattern here, it's exactly what we need. The field isn't trying to maintain a single state. It's naturally oscillating between multiple probability waves." Wang nodded, his experienced eyes seeing the beauty in the apparently chaotic arrangement. "It's like the ship has been preparing for this moment for 50 years, one patch at a time." Another shock wave hit the ship, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed across every console as the anomaly's expansion rate increased again. "Status report." Chen's voice came through the intercom. "The modifications are proceeding," Wang replied, his hand steady as he adjusted a crucial power coupling. "But these readings, Dr. Patel, the quantum field variance is increasing exponentially." Patel rushed to her instruments, her face illuminated by the glow of quantum field displays. "The Alliance's containment efforts are making it worse faster than we predicted. Captain, we need to act now, even if we're not fully ready." Chen's voice was steady when she responded. "Can we succeed with partial modifications?" "Success was never guaranteed," Patel said honestly. "But if we wait until we're completely ready, there won't be anything left to save." In that moment, as alarms blared and the ship groaned around them, the crew of the Perseverance faced a truth that humanity had known since they first looked up at the stars. Sometimes you had to act without being fully prepared. Sometimes imperfect action was better than perfect preparation. "All hands," Chen's voice rang through the ship. "Prepare for quantum field engagement. This is what the Perseverance was built for, not to be the newest or the most advanced, but to be exactly what's needed when it's needed most." The ancient ship's quantum drive hummed with a new tone, its imperfect field preparing to teach the universe something about the beauty of flaws and the strength that comes from embracing them. The Perseverance moved through space like an old warrior approaching one final battle. Its hull plates vibrated with the modified quantum drive's unusual harmonics, creating a sound that made even the most experienced crew members exchange nervous glances. "All stations, report," Captain Chen commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Engineering ready," Wang's voice came through, accompanied by the strange new rhythm of their quantum drive. "The modifications are holding, but we're already seeing stress fractures in the secondary containment fields." "Science station ready," Patel announced from her newly established position on the bridge. Her usual lab had been transformed into an extension of engineering, Every bit of computing power redirected to their desperate plan. Quantum field calculations are as stable as they're going to get. Helm ready, Torres added, his hands resting on the manual controls. Though I'll be honest, Captain, she's handling differently now. It's like trying to steer through molasses. The anomaly dominated their view now, a writhing tear in space-time that defied description. The Alliance fleet's containment ships formed a glowing barrier around it, their perfect quantum fields trying to force order onto chaos. But with each passing moment, their efforts seemed to make the disturbance grow stronger. Captain Chen. High Commissioner Turl's voice cut through their communications. Your vessel is approaching the containment perimeter. You must withdraw immediately. Whatever you're planning. Commissioner, Chen interrupted. In about 3 minutes, either we'll all be dead, or you'll be thanking us. Either way, we don't have time to argue. She cut the transmission as another shockwave hit the ship. Warning lights flashed across every console as the quantum distortions intensified. Hull integrity at 70%, Santos reported. The quantum field variations are affecting our structural integrity. Dr. Patel. Chen turned to her chief scientist. Time to show us what this old ship can really do. Patel's fingers flew across her console, making final adjustments to their modified quantum drive. The key is to match the anomaly's natural frequency, but not perfectly. We need to introduce just enough chaos into the system to let it find its own equilibrium. Like teaching it to dance, Torres murmured, remembering their earlier conversations. Exactly. Patel smiled despite the tension. We're not trying to control it. We're trying to remind it how to control itself. The Perseverance pushed deeper into the quantum storm, its old hull creaking under stresses it was never designed to endure. Around them, the Alliance ships continued their futile efforts at containment, their perfect technology proving inadequate against nature's chaos. Quantum drive engaging in 3, 2, 1. Wum's voice counted down from engineering. The ship shuddered as their modified drive activated. The lighting on the bridge took on an otherworldly quality as quantum fields began to interact in ways that defied conventional physics. Through the viewport, they could see their ship's quantum field extending outward, not the precise, controlled envelope of Alliance technology, but something organic, almost alive in its movements. It's working, Patel whispered, staring at her readings. The anomaly's expansion rate is decreasing. It's beginning to respond to our quantum signature. But success came with a price. The ship groaned as unprecedented forces worked against its hull. Panels began to buckle, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with quantum distortions. Hull integrity at 50%, Santos called out. Structural failure imminent in multiple sections. Reroute power from life support if you have to, Chen ordered. Everything goes to maintaining that quantum field. Through their viewports, they could see the Alliance ships breaking formation, their crews unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. The Perseverance's chaotic quantum field was spreading, interacting with the anomaly in ways their sensors couldn't even properly measure. The anomaly's quantum signature is shifting, Patel reported, her voice filled with wonder. It's starting to mimic our field's pattern. Not perfectly, but imperfectly enough to work, Chen finished. The ship bucked violently as another wave of quantum energy washed over them. Warning klaxons blared as multiple systems approached critical failure. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4, Santos shouted over the noise. Emergency containment fields are holding, but we're losing structural integrity fast. Main power fluctuating, Wang added from engineering. The quantum drive is drawing more energy than we can safely provide. Chen gripped her chair as the ship shuddered again. How much longer, Dr. Patel? 2 more minutes, Patel answered, her eyes never leaving her calculations. The anomaly is learning from our quantum field. It's starting to stabilize. But if we stop now... She didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone on the bridge knew that failure meant not just their deaths, but potentially the destruction of dozens of star systems. Hull integrity at 30%, Santos updated. Captain, We're approaching the theoretical limits of our structural integrity field. Theory is about perfection, Chen replied, a slight smile playing at her lips despite the danger. The Perseverance has never been about perfection. Through the chaos of alarms and groaning metal, they could hear their quantum drive's song changing. The erratic rhythm was becoming more structured, though still far from the precise hum of Alliance technology. The anomaly's quantum signature is stabilizing, Patil announced, excitement breaking through her professional demeanor. It's following our lead, finding its own balance between chaos and order. But the Perseverance was paying a terrible price for its success. Entire sections of the ship were now exposed to space, protected only by failing emergency fields. The bridge itself was beginning to deform as quantum forces twisted the very structure of the ship. 20 seconds to complete stabilization, Patil called out. But Captain, the structural integrity field is failing. We're not going to survive this. Chen looked around at her bridge crew, at Torres with his hands steady on the controls even as they burned his palms, at Santos maintaining communications despite her console sparking dangerously, at Patil working until the very end to save billions of lives. The Perseverance has served humanity for 50 years, Chen said, her voice carrying to every corner of the dying ship. Let's make sure they remember her for the next 50. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath as the ancient human vessel fought its final battle, not with weapons or shields, but with the very imperfections that had made it unique. The quantum anomaly that had defied the most advanced technology in the galaxy was being tamed by a ship that refused to be perfect, crewed by beings who understood that flaws could become strengths. In the final moments, as the Perseverance's hull threatened to tear itself apart, the universe seemed to pause. The quantum anomaly's wild, destructive energy began to pulse in rhythm with the ship's failing drive, like two dancers finding their balance together. Through viewports that were starting to crack, the crew watched as their desperate gamble began to pay off. Quantum resonance achieving stability, Patil announced, her voice barely audible over the ship's groaning death throes. The anomaly is following our pattern. The Perseverance's quantum field had expanded to encompass the entire anomaly, its imperfect harmonics teaching the tear in spacetime how to heal itself. Where the Alliance's perfect containment fields had failed, humanity's flawed technology was succeeding. Hull integrity critical, Santos reported, fighting to keep her station operational as panels exploded around her. Structural collapse imminent. Reroute everything to the quantum drive, Chen ordered. Life support, weapons, everything. We're almost there. Through the chaos on the bridge, Torres kept the ship steady, his burned hands never leaving the controls. Like riding a wave, he muttered, remembering Patil's earlier words. We're not fighting it anymore. We're dancing with it. The anomaly's wild energy began to contract, following the example set by the Perseverance's quantum field. Decades of repairs and modifications had created a pattern that showed the universe how to balance between chaos and order, between perfection and imperfection. Amazing. High Commissioner Curl's voice came through their failing comm system. The anomaly, it's stabilizing. But your ship is doing exactly what she was meant to do, Chen finished, watching as pieces of her beloved vessel began to break away into space. In engineering, Chief Wong worked frantically to keep the quantum drive functioning for just a few more seconds. The containment field is failing, he reported. We can't hold it much longer. We don't need to, Patil replied, her eyes fixed on her readings. The anomaly has learned what we needed to teach it. It's stabilizing on its own now. The view through the bridge's viewport was extraordinary. The quantum tear that had threatened to consume entire star systems was now closing itself, guided by the example of an obsolete human vessel's imperfect quantum field. The Alliance ships watched in stunned silence as their sophisticated sensors recorded something their scientists had believed impossible. All hands, Chen called out, her voice steady despite the destruction around her. Prepare for emergency evacuation. She's done her job. Now it's time for us to let her go. But before they could reach the escape pods, something unexpected happened. The quantum resonance between the Perseverance and the anomaly shifted. Energy that had been tearing the ship apart began to flow differently. "Captain," Patel called out, staring at her readings in disbelief. "The quantum field. It's not just stabilizing the anomaly. The anomaly is stabilizing us." The Perseverance's hull, which had been buckling under impossible stresses, began to resonate with the same frequency that was healing the tear in spacetime. Metal that had been about to shatter instead found a new equilibrium, strengthened by the very forces that had nearly destroyed it. "Hull integrity. Stabilizing," Santos reported, confusion and hope mixing in her voice. "The quantum feedback is actually reinforcing our structural fields." Through viewports that were no longer threatening to crack, they watched as the anomaly completed its transformation. Where there had been a chaotic tear in the fabric of spacetime, there was now something new, a stable quantum phenomenon that defied conventional physics. As the dust settled and emergency teams from the Alliance fleet rushed to assist, the full magnitude of what they had accomplished began to sink in. The Perseverance, the ship that had been mocked as obsolete, had not only saved countless lives, but had demonstrated a completely new understanding of quantum physics. High Commissioner Tyrell personally came aboard, their crystalline form shifting with what could only be described as humility. "Captain Chen," they said, looking around at the battered but surviving ship, "I believe we owe you and your crew more than just an apology. You've shown us something we had forgotten in our pursuit of perfection. That sometimes the flaws are what make something work." Chen finished, running her hand along a bulkhead that bore 50 years of scratches and repairs. In the days that followed, as the scientific community struggled to understand exactly what had happened, the Perseverance became a symbol of a new way of thinking. Alliance engineers began studying its primitive quantum drive, discovering principles that their perfect technology had overlooked. Dr. Patel's theories about quantum resonance and natural stability became the foundation for a new field of physics. But for the crew of the Perseverance, the most important lesson wasn't about quantum mechanics or advanced technology. It was about the strength that comes from embracing imperfection, about the wisdom found in age and experience, and about the power of looking at problems in ways that no one else would consider. 1 month later, as the Perseverance prepared to leave Centauri Prime, its hull now bearing new scars alongside the old, Captain Chen stood on her bridge and addressed her crew. "They offered us a new ship," she said, looking around at the faces that had become family. "Top of the line, with all the latest technology. I told them we'd keep this one. After all, she's proven something that the galaxy needed to remember. That perfection isn't always the answer, that sometimes the old ways still have something to teach us, and that humanity's greatest strength isn't in having the best technology, but in seeing the potential in what others dismiss." The Perseverance's engines hummed to life, their sound now carrying a hint of the quantum harmonics that had saved a dozen star systems. As they pulled away from the spaceport, other ships, both human and alien, adjusted their course to let them pass, no longer out of pity or condescension, but out of respect. The old ship moved through space with the dignity of a vessel that had nothing left to prove, carrying a crew that had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest contribution to the stars might not be in achieving perfection, but in finding strength in their flaws and wisdom in their experiences. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, a stable quantum phenomenon continued to pulse with the same imperfect rhythm as an old ship's drive, a permanent reminder that sometimes the universe's greatest mysteries can only be solved by those willing to embrace the beauty of imperfection.